Hello everybody, this is Fronto Bob here. Welcome to another YouTube NASCAR video thingy majiggy doobry flip blah blah blah. Yes, today we're talking about NASCAR. Yes, so as you know, there was no race last weekend because it was the Easter weekend, so there was no race to watch. Unfortunately, I really wish that there would have been a race to watch because last weekend it kind of felt empty, to be honest. A weekend, it really doesn't feel complete without a NASCAR race to watch. Thankfully, NASCAR is coming back this weekend. They're going to be racing in Texas. I'm not sure how good or badly that race is going to go, considering that the mile-and-a-half races have been pretty bad this year. But, well, not necessarily bad, just dull and boring, that's all. But not to the point where you just stop watching NASCAR. I don't know. Bank coaches. So, anyway, since there has been no NASCAR race this weekend, instead, we're going to go over what we have learned so far this season. I know my face isn't in center in the shot, but I kind of want to try to do things more interesting. Actually, no, I can't take that back. You know what? Nah, forget about it. We'll just put my face in the middle of the camera. And I was originally planning on making this video when it was eventually going to be no racing during the weekend because of the fact that it was Easter. You can barely see my face, but that's okay. I would turn on my bedroom light, but it doesn't work at the moment as it's just blinky, and I don't want to give you guys epilepsy just because I'm talking about something. So anyways, so 6 races in, and so far, we've learned that you can't see my face because the lighting is so poor. We've learned that the Ford drivers have suddenly become good. The Toyota drivers are not quite as fast as they were, except for Truex winning an Auto Club, and that the Chevy drivers are rubbish. Yeah, bringing in that new Chevrolet Camaro. Yeah, so far it hasn't been that good for Chevy. I mean, Chase Elliott did win the duel, and Austin Dillon did win the Daytona 500, but then again, that's a restricted play track. Anybody has a chance of winning Daytona 500. You could be driving for Premium Motorsports and still have a shot to win the Daytona 500. I don't know. Well, I'm not sure if that's actually realistic or not, but maybe that will happen one day. But anyways, but then again, as soon as we got to Atlanta, man, oh man, the hype just died. Yeah, there was all kinds of hype going in for all the Chevy drivers, and not just for the Chevy drivers, but also for the young guns like Bubba Wallace, William Byron, and all the other, all the the youth movement. Really, the whole youth movement had quite a bit of hype going into it. But as soon as we got to Atlanta, we realized that, man, these young guns, they're not as good as we thought they were. In Atlanta, Bubba Wallace finished 2 laps down. William Byron couldn't even finish in the lead lap. I think he was like 1 lap down or 2 laps down. I'm not entirely sure. And then from there on out wasn't too much better, to be honest. I mean, William Byron did lead for a few laps in, I think it was Auto Club, but no, was it Auto Club or was it Phoenix? Yeah, it was Phoenix, or I don't know, one of the two. But apart from that, all the young guys are not that good. I mean, the only real 2 young guns that have performed somewhat good this season is Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott, if you can even call them young. I mean, Kyle Larson is starting to turn into a veteran. Well, he's already a semi-veteran, and Chase Elliott, well, he's still learning, but he's at least run somewhat good. I mean, he hasn't led a single lap this season, but he has. He did finish 3rd in Phoenix, but then again, I think Phoenix is like a short track, so I guess he still has some work to do on the 1.5 miles and the 2 miles and the other things like that. So, man, oh man, the young guys, yeah, after seeing how badly they performed at Atlanta and pretty much all the other races of the season, I think after Daytona, I think it pretty much goes to show that the young guys, they have a long way to go to becoming as good as the champions before them. But not just the young guns. Oh, no. Legend drivers like Jimmy Johnson. Well, I say legend drivers, it's really only just Jimmy Johnson. Yeah, Jimmy Johnson has done poor this season. I mean, Michael McDowell is ahead of Jimmy Johnson in the point standings. Yeah, and yet Michael McDowell is driving for Frontman Motorsports, which is usually a fairly slow team, but Jimmy Johnson is in the bottom 30 in the point standings, I think, and yeah, Jimmy Johnson, like, after he won the championship in 2016, he's kind of slacked off a bit. I mean, he did win those 2 races in 2017, but the second half of 2017 and pretty much ever since, Jimmy Johnson's just been just slow. I don't know. And now we have Lowe's pulling out as Jimmy Johnson's main sponsor, so Jimmy Johnson's going to be driving a new paint job and a new sponsor next year. Who in the world is that going to be? I have absolutely no idea. It could possibly be one of the sponsors that sponsors the junior motorsports drivers in the Xfinity series, or it could just be washed up sponsors that no one has ever even heard of before. Yeah, so that's interesting. So we'll see what happens with Jimmy Johnson next season when Lowe's leaves, and then again, Jimmy Johnson, he only has only a few more years of for a few more years underneath his contract. I think his contract ends after 2022, which is still 5 years from now. So hopefully Jimmy Johnson can win an 8th title in that time span. If not, then oh dear, the 7-time champion could be in a bit of trouble. But I guess we'll see what happens with Jimmy Johnson down the line. And yeah, so I've talked about young drivers and Jimmy Johnson going really slow. Same thing can be said about most of the Chevy drivers, yeah. Austin Dillon, Ryan Newman, Jamie McMurray. Pretty much all the Chevy drivers have been slow except for Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott on a few occasions. Well, even then Chase Elliott isn't that great. Like if we narrow it down, Kyle Larson is pretty much the only Chevy driver that is actually somewhat fast, and even then, Kyle Larson has only led a few laps this season, and that was at All Club, and yeah, I was very excited to see the new Camaros being super, or at least somewhat dominant, but I don't know, maybe history could repeat itself. Like, you know when Toyota, when they brought in the brand new Camry at the beginning of the 2017 season, yeah, the Toyota drivers, they were pretty slow, when Martin Truex Jr. was the only Toyota driver to have won a race in 2017, all the way up until New Hampshire in I think it was it the summer race? It was race number 20 of the season in New Hampshire. Yeah, it was all the way up until then that a second Toyota driver had won a race that season, and just happened to be Denny Hamlin. Who knows, maybe we'll see the same thing this year, where maybe later on in the second half of the season, the Chevy drivers will suddenly get it together and they'll become dominant, and a Chevy driver will possibly win the championship, be it Kyle Larson, possibly Chase Elliott, or maybe one of the other Chevy drivers just happens to get their act together. We'll see what happens. Maybe Alex Bowman as well. Well, then again, Alex Bowman, he's another one of those drivers that still has quite a ways to go. I mean, Alex Bowman, he did pretty well in the 880 in 2016, but even then, this is Alex Bowman's first ever full-time year in a top-tier ride. I say top-tier ride because Alex Bowman was also a full-time driver in 2014 and 15, but those years he was driving rubbish cars for low-end teams, so that's a thing. So I guess Alex Bowman has a bit of a ways to go to getting used to driving a faster car. Well, I say that he drove the 88 back in 2016 and actually did somewhat well. But I don't know. We'll see what happens with Alex Bowman down the line. So that's another thing. And also, the Ford drivers are suddenly on the opposite end of the spectrum. Ford drivers just... Man, I have to say, I was kind of in the same... same mindset as, I guess, most of the guys at Fox. I remember during the Atlanta race, they once said, we were expecting Toyota and Chevy to be dominant cars and Ford to be in a struggle, but oh no, Ford. They have shown that they are not even in the slightest in a struggle. So far, they have won the majority of their races this season, being one of the other Duel and the Clash, even though those are Daytona, and then Kevin Harvick wins 3 races in a row, and then Clint Boyer wins it in Martinsville. So Ford, so much for being in a bit of a draw. Ford, they are just destroying the field, really. Well, not entirely destroying the field, but running well, I will say. So, we'll see if Ford can keep up this fight for the remainder of the season, and who knows, maybe Kevin Harvick could possibly go for a second championship. I honestly wouldn't like it very much, but hey, it'll at least show that Stewart House Racing's move over to Ford wasn't a massive mistake. I remember, because I used to criticize Stewart House Racing for being a Ford team, but it seems that they are showing that their move over to Ford has been a complete waste of time and money, and I hope it doesn't turn out to be a waste of time and money, because Stewart House Racing was one of my favorite teams last year, because not last year, but 2016. I think Stewart House Racing might be coming back. It was one of my favorite teams in NASCAR. You know. So yeah. So what else to talk about? So far this season, in terms of races, at least in the Cup Series, has not been that good. I mean, after the Daytona 500, the races from Atlanta to Auto Club were fairly boring, honestly. I mean, I guess not super boring, but at the same time, you could look away from the TV screen for some time and not miss a thing, and which is what I did, because otherwise, I'm not sure if I would have seen the whole, or would have watched the whole entire race. So that's a thing. Although Martinsville was pretty good, but that's a short track, so of course. I think it's safe to say that Martinsville is one of those races where you can absolutely guarantee a good quality race, which is what we saw in Martinsville a couple weekends ago. But now we're going to Texas, and I'm really not so sure about this race. I don't know if it's going to be good. I don't know if it's going to be bad. It's probably going to be not good, but we'll find out exactly what happens when we go to Texas. Yeah, it is. No, yeah, it is an interesting place, to say the least, or at least for my buddy Arlington Streams Weather 124 it is, aka Russell, because our buddy Russell, he's quite a fan of Texas Motor Speedway for some odd reason. I wonder why. Yeah, so there you go. So that's everything that I've learned so far this season. I don't think that there's going to be another off weekend for the remainder of this season, and I hope that there isn't, because honestly, a weekend without a NASCAR race just doesn't feel like a weekend, especially considering the fact that I really didn't do anything at all for Easter, and I made a video thingy for April Fool's Day, which was interesting, so if you want to check that out, then go right ahead. But that's all for this video. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. I think this is going to be the only video that I upload for today. We'll see if that happens. And we will see you, or I will see you in the next video. Yeah.